All right, all right. Good evening, everybody. We want y'all to come on in the room. I see people are popping in, so you know I'm excited about that. Hi, everyone. For those of you that are in here, I would like you to know the house rules of ladies in film and television. When you walk in somebody's house, you're supposed to speak. So what does that mean? Say hello. We want you to say hello so we can know who's looking, who's watching, and we want to give out some shout outs to you. I am Jeanette Greenwood. I am the CEO and founder of Ladies in Film and Television, and I'm super excited about tonight, y'all. We have some amazing guests that are joining us tonight. They are filmmakers. They are all award nominated filmmakers, and they are right here with us. So don't say that you didn't see it first on here, because you did. Okay. We want to explore every aspect of the film that they produced that got them the nomination for Texas Indie Filmmaker Award. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't by luck. It was by their pure talent that got them here. And I am so excited to be able to interview some Texas filmmakers, y'all. This is what y'all heard me say, y'all. That's when you know you're a real Texan. I'm sorry, y'all, but y'all gonna hear y'all all night because I'm Texan, okay? But y'all, seriously, I am so excited that we're able to talk to Texas filmmakers, because we're Texan and we want to show what we can actually do here in Texas. And we got talent. Texas got talent. We might need to do a show called Texas Got Talent. Texas Filmmakers Got Talent. I'm about to talk to Brandon and Devin about that. We might have to, hook up and do some Texas Got Talent. Let me be quiet, because somebody been stole that idea. Y'all, it's recorded. It's mine. Okay. But anyway, we're super excited about having them here tonight. We definitely want to shout out to the people that are coming in the room. Thank y'all so much for joining. Please share this live. We want to get as many people on. If you have any question for them tonight, definitely hit it in the chat. Hit it in the chat. What you want to ask. We just talked before the show started. They said, whatever, no limit. We're gonna answer. I'm like, okay, I like interviews like this. Now, don't go too far, ladies, because they are nice looking men. Don't go too far with it, okay? I don't know if they're married or not. I don't know what their relationships are like. So don't go too far with it. We're gonna keep it film, okay? Keep it film. All right. But anyway, we're super excited of having them here. Texas Indie Filmmaker, for those that don't know what it is, this is our first annual Texas Indie Filmmaker Award show, where we're actually, the purpose of this show is to show the talent, and not just that, but to award and just recognize and pay the attention that the filmmakers need here. Let's just be honest. Everybody's not going to make it to the Oscars. Okay. Everybody's not going to get, Golden Globe. Okay. So guess what we did? We created our own version, and we're doing it Texas style. Okay. So without further ado, these guys, I watched the film, but we're going to talk about everything tonight. So again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We want to answer them all. I don't want to be the only one talking. Okay. Because I can talk. So without further ado, we're going to bring to the stage Brandon Stewart and Devin Montgomery. And y'all, one more thing before they come. We can't hear you. We can't see you. But you can clap and put it in there. Or you could just go crazy on those hearts. Just hit them until they just flow everywhere. I love to see the hearts. Give up the hearts. I'm bringing them to the stage. Brandon and Devin. Y'all come on. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, guys, to the show. We're excited about tonight to actually dive in and talk to you about this amazing film. It's a short film, and you guys are doing some things out here in the industry with this project. So let's not prolong the time. Brandon.
Yes, ma'am.
You actually submitted the film.
Yes, ma'am.
And let me ask you this. How did you learn about the Texas Indie Awards? How did you learn about this?
Yeah, so basically when I went to Film Freeway, I typed in Texas, and I basically submitted to anything in the state that I could. Anything that looked like it had merit, that looked like it'd be fun and look like it would be worthwhile, because none of them are usually free to enter to. So you got to make your picks. We're pretty indie, so you got to make your picks wisely. And when I saw yours, they talked a lot about exposure being really important, and that's really, really important in this industry. So I told him, I was like, I'm submitting, and we'll see what happens.
Wow. Well, it was a lot of submissions. So for you guys to get this far, I'm telling you, it was definitely your work showed. I mean, it was, like I told them earlier, I can't share their stats with them yet, but I can only say this, that to get to this point, your stats had to be up there, and it was so many films that were up there. I'm just telling you, and I'm so glad that I was not a judge and I had to make these hard choices and decisions. Lucky we did have the scales. Film Freeway is amazing, and the scales was easier for them to actually go through it, so it just really helped them move along. So I just want to give you both your kudos, because to get here, it was not by, oh, they just like them. No, your work got you here. Okay.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. We are grateful. Very grateful.
Yes. So Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into, well, actually, I don't want to go there. I want to know, tell us about yourself and why you did this film, because I told you I want to be a little bit nosy about this film.
Yes, ma'am. That's okay. So I'm born and raised Texan. I've been acting first for a long, long time, since I was a kid, mostly on stage when I was young and in high school. I got really invested in YouTube around 2006, 2007 on Windows Movie Maker and all of the little cameras. And so I always kind of had a drive to do it. And I tried to make Hollywood my backyard. If people weren't going to put me on, then I was going to put myself on, and I was going to try. And so it kind of snowballed into just trying to make more and more serious stuff. But then I still kind of had this lingering voice in the back of my mind that was like, you're too small for this. You can't do a real film. You're not going to be able to do that. And so I just finally had to tell myself, it doesn't matter if one person watches it, 10 people watch it, or 1,000 people watch it. I just got to do it. And thankfully, when I met Devin, I actually met Devin on a set. We worked on a film in, what was it, 2018?
2018, yeah.
2018. We worked on a World War II film. And it can really help when you meet like-minded people. I know people always say that, but it really can change the game. And once I met him, and he kind of had those same ideas and dreams of like, if they're not going to do it, we got to do it. And so I invested in a cinema camera. I actually invested in it right before I got laid off in 2020 in March, when the lockdowns happened. So I put all this money into this big camera, and then I got laid off. And so I had to like kind of rework my plan and figure out when I was going to work again. And then, again, we're indie, so every dollar counted. And so it was just a process of figuring out how I wanted to tell the story, because I wasn't going to do it halfway, and I wasn't going to sacrifice my vision for it. I wanted to do it right. And I think I got pretty close.
I think so too.
Thank
and
you.
Devin, tell us about you and how are you involved in this film? Because I know they don't.
Right. Yeah. So my parents grew up in the Air Force, I grew up with my parents in the Air Force, so I moved around constantly. So I was always at different schools all the time. It was hard to really get into like one sort of activity. At first, I kind of flocked towards basketball, so that was kind of my thing. And then all the way up until college, I had way more of an opportunity to kind of expand my interests, I guess, because I went to a small high school, didn't really have a theater department. So acting, I always loved movies. I thought it'd be cool to be an actor, but it just didn't seem possible, I guess. But so in college, I randomly took a theater class, and something just like clicked.
Wow.
And I'm actually from Oklahoma. So in Oklahoma, there's a place called the Actor Factory, where casting director Chris Freihofer, he opened up that kind of around the same time I was first started getting into acting. So I took some classes there, and then it just kind of a snowball effect into like getting an agent, booking stuff from there and all that. And one of the things that I booked when I got one of my first Texas agents was the World War II film where I met Brendan. And yeah, we just kind of clicked instantly. Like we had very similar interests. But after the film was over, we kind of maintained a friendship, but it wasn't really like too close. It was just kind of like he was a good friend of mine that I'd consider an actor, I guess. But then, yeah, once 2020 happened, that really changed my attitude towards the film industry, because all that sitting around, I just felt like I needed to do something. So I had some friends that were in the film industry in Oklahoma helped me make a short film in 2020. And once I did that, I saw how there was way more of an opportunity. You can kind of control things a little bit more, like as yourself. And then around that time, about a year later, that's when I stopped to see Brendan where he was working, and he had this idea, and then that kind of slowly balloons into this short film idea. And then it was like I think there was like a 2-week period where I was like, well, hey, you want to just shoot it? And I gave him this weekend, which was last New Year's. So that
almost a year to the day we shot
almost a year ago, about 51 weeks right now. But I was just like, well, because I had just booked like a couple of really interesting projects as an actor. And so I felt in this zone. So I told him, I was like, hey man, let's roll with this. Let's film. And he was like, you know what, let's do it. So we were like, all right, let's go. And then here we are.
Wow. Well, that is so amazing. And that is one of the things that our organization, Ladies in Film and Television, our purpose is to connect and network with different artists in the industry. And networking is very important. And it's just exciting to hear that you guys were on a film set and who would have thought, you go on set, you do your thing, bye, I'm gone.
Right.
But then for some reason, whatever reason, it was meant that y'all connected, and now y'all are here together working and doing some amazing things. So kudos for y'all. I mean, this is what it's all about, networking, is that we have to get out and talk to people because we learn from each other.
Right. No,
and
absolutely.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, you never know what those relationships that you create, if it's on a set, if it's at a film festival. Like that was another thing that I saw, like just going to different film festivals. I've made a lot of great connections that way too. So you always just want to keep that open mindset for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. So Brandon, I told you backstage earlier that, I'm kind of nosy. Where is this? I mean, I you know what? Before everybody, let me just show the trailer. So is it okay if I show the trailer now?
That's fine.
I'm gonna come back with my question because I have a lot of questions about why this script? What happened? Okay, I want to know. Inquire minds. Right. So everyone, hold on. We're gonna actually show you the trailer. So give me a second. I hope I get it right tonight. I did it right a while ago. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see if I get it right today. Okay, let me see. All right, so we got it here. Y'all give me a second. Let me get back on my other page that I was on, because I did it right earlier. Okay. And did I do it?
How do you begin to let go? What does it even mean? I've come to think of it as my favorite English tense.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. Now, this film, I mean, that trailer is hot. Okay. I love it. That trailer is hot. I saw the film. So I want to know, because you actually wrote this during the pandemic. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was still going on. This was written in late 2020 to early 2021.
So, yeah. And so, but you finished filming this year.
We did. Well, basically on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day of 2021, so 2022, we finished. So like we said, like almost a year to the day we were making this. That's why it really brings back a lot just watching the trailer.
Yeah, just watching that's like...
I'm thinking about all the moments and experiences and memories we made. Because, I mean, we became so much closer just from making this film.
That's where like our relationship changed completely with the process of making it. And then especially after we made it, like we just became, it's now a brotherhood. Like that's, I mean, it's
I
not
love
friends
it.
anymore. It's like a brotherhood at this point. So,
I love it.
It's wild.
but yeah,
So
just
what-
watching that. Oof.
What the script is any of that has anything to do with your life, or is it just something that you came up with?
It does. It's a deeply personal film. It actually is so personal that it stemmed from a journal entry. I journal a lot. I'm a nerd. And so I had this really long, like 10-page journal entry. And it was just me pouring out so many things. I mean, because everyone in 2020, 2021, everyone was having stuff go on.
Right.
And there were more than just relationship issues. There was financial. There was, when you're trying to be an actor, there's a lot of career issues you're facing. And the industry was changing. We didn't even know if the industry was going to survive for a while.
Right.
And so I'm having a lot of questions and I'm just pouring them all out. And I noticed, not to like pat myself on the back, but I was like, some of these things here should be said out loud. They shouldn't just sit in this journal. And so I read it to him and I said, this is deeply, him and I are not super close at this point. And so I'm reading him this deeply personal
What's your name again?
Yeah. I'm reading him this deeply personal journal entry. And I'm like, do you think this could be a script? And he's like, yeah. And we thought at first it'd be like 5-6 minutes. And then it ballooned into a 18-minute, the film you saw.
Yeah.
And because once you start speaking your truth, so to speak, you sometimes find you have even more to say. And so I was in the editing room and I'd add another scene and I'd add another scene. And yeah, it's a personal film. The title is a lot like what I felt like I was going through, which is when you're trying to achieve something and also at the same time let go of someone. It is a process that starts in the past, like the present perfect continuous tense, and it goes on maybe forever. We may never achieve the ultimate state of our dream, and we may never ultimately let go of things, people, ideas, but it's the act of doing it that matters. It's the act of the journey of trying it, so to speak, if that makes sense. And that's kind of, I told him too, that was the funny thing, is I said, what about this title? Is it a little too long? I was like, is it a little too...
Perfect.
Yeah, and he was like, no, it's perfect. And I was like, I don't know. It's just, you overthink everything when it's your own thing. I'm like, is the title too long? Is the poster too big? Is the blah, 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 blah. Should I use this font? So it's like, I'm really happy with the outcome and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. And, it's funny because that's just a filmmaker, I guess, thing to do, because we worry about the fonts. I mean, I do that all the time. Like, this one don't look right. Should I use this font? So those, you said that, jokingly, but that is some serious stuff. I mean, for us, that we really worry about the posters and the titles. And when I saw that title, I'm like, man, what is this film about? So that title is very catchy. It was straight to the point. I feel that it definitely fits the movie. And so good job on that, because that's another important thing, is that titles make and break films as well.
Yeah, no, they do. And you want one that, you want things that roll off your tongue and are easy to say. And I did have a few people who, even at other film festivals, were like, we got perfect present. And I was like, oh God. And so I'm like, I'm not mad at them. I'm like, I chose too complicated of a title. So, I mean, as long as people like it, if you like it, I'm sold. It was the right choice.
Yes. Perfect. It's present, perfect, continuous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
That's it. So, yes. So now you told us that it was a journal, which that's very interesting, that you took your personal journal and shared it with somebody. So, Devin, when you read this, be honest, Devin, what were you thinking? Come on.
Well, I'll set the scenario for you too. So he first told me about it when
make me look good. Make me look good.
Of course, always. I was driving from Austin back to Oklahoma City, and I stopped in Dallas because he was at the time a bartender at Outback Steakhouse. So I was like, well, let me come in and get something to eat, catch up with him. And without going too far into it, I noticed there was something that was a little different, but I didn't want to I wasn't sure yet. But then towards the very end of our conversation, he kind of made it apparent that he had a life change that had just happened recently for him. And I think at that moment I was like, okay. And I could tell you know, when people are going through something
Right.
in their lives, you kind of like, you know, you kind of see it. And that's one thing I feel like moving around a lot. I'm pretty good at being able to read people. So, you know, we talked a little bit more about it. And then that's when he started telling me about this journal, this letter that he had written essentially. Well, I was in Dallas. I stayed with him for a weekend, and we went out one night. We were just getting drinks, and then that's when it really, like, the moment where he was like, "Okay, what do you think of this?" And yeah, he showed it to me. He read it for me. He started telling me the original idea, like he mentioned, where it was going to be maybe like a 4-minute, just a micro short kind of film.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was reading it to me, like, it definitely connected for me as well, because I was in a long-term relationship that I had been out of it for about, I think, a year at that point, maybe 2 years. So I kind of knew kind of what he was going through a little bit. Like, it's always different for everybody, but
Right.
you know, you kind of can relate to that. And it put me back in my mindset when I had just gotten out of it. So we just kind of threw some ideas, and yeah, we were just like, you know, let's just see what happens. And that's where I think, because he wanted me to shoot the film, and I didn't really necessarily have too much experience being a cinematographer for the film, but I was very humbled that, like, not only did he trust me with this, you know, subject matter and something very personal to him, but the fact that he also just trusted, I guess, my artistic eye, because like I said, me and him have very similar tastes when it comes to movies and things like that. So I think that was another thing we clicked. But yeah, once he told me about it, I had, you know, ideas rattling, so we were bouncing it off of each other. But basically, I loved the fact that he was brave enough to put something that personal out there. So I was like, let's roll with it. You know,
Wow.
that's something I really, in 2020, that my mindset changed, where, you know, it's nice to talk about things, but when you really start doing them, that's when there's like that mindset. It's like,
100%.
you could talk about them, but why not just get the camera, hit record, see what happens? So
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we
Now,
were
you
learning
said
together
that
the
you.
camera. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was so funny. We were learning. I had just bought that cinema camera,
Yeah.
and I hadn't had much practice with it. So I'm doing YouTube tutorials and learning. Like I said, I had experience with other cameras, but those cameras had, you know, autofocus, manual shutter, all that stuff that you want. But this camera it's a cinema camera. Everything is not done. It's not holding your hand. You got to figure it all out yourself. You got to know your lighting stuff. You got to know everything. And quite frankly, we didn't. We were going off of what we knew on set that we had watched.
Yeah.
So just the fact that we were able to shoot something competent at all is pretty crazy to me. And when I look at it, the things I learned on that set are crazy.
Yeah.
The things I learned from that.
There were moments.
Wow.
There were moments, especially the first day, like we were shooting, where we'd get our lighting set up, and there was like ideas that we had, how we wanted it to look and things like that. Like the red lighting, that was all his idea.
Mhm.
So we just tried to make, like, you know, like interesting lighting you would see in a film. But I just remember our very first shot when it's with him when you see it in the trailer where he has the cigarette and he's like kind of like writing.
Mhm.
Just one of our very first takes, we'd hit record, and then in my head and out loud, we were both just like, oh my goodness, this looks amazing. This looks so good. And then we're like, okay, we're on to something here. So yeah,
No, I
there's a
remember
lot
that
of
very
great
well.
moments like that.
I remember that very well. I remember the smoke getting in my eye.
Yeah.
And I had to run the whole take because I'm not a cigarette smoker. Those are props. And so the smoke kept getting in my eye, and he'd be like, I could see him behind the camera, like, this looks so good. And then I'd be like, I can't see anything.
And actually, you answered. I'm glad you cut me off, because that was my question on the experience that you guys had. And then, because I heard him say, well, I had never done it, you know, I didn't have that much experience, but he trusted me. So that, man, that is I am sitting here listening like, what?
Well,
Yeah,
when
we both, like, for myself, and still, like, I've made a film since then, and I had made short films before that, where it was just like, you know, one that I truly would say is that I kind of did have, like, my hands over a lot of it, but I still view myself as an actor. So I look through this actor's mindset.
Right.
So I knew, with him being the director and obviously being the lead actor in it, I knew maybe that was something where he kind of trusted me, because since we have that similar taste in films and we loved a lot of the same actors, like, I feel like he trusted me, since I was behind the camera, I'd obviously be able to see what was going on. So in a way, it was like he kind of, if I thought his performance was great on screen, it's something that we just clicked, where it helped a lot when we would move from scene to scene to scene, because it was very fast. We did it in like what, 2.5 days?
2.5 days.
Oh wow!
We shot the whole thing in 2.5 days, and when we just he wasn't available to be with me, unfortunately. I wish you would have been there, but I was in San Antonio for another film festival a couple months ago, and we won Best Drama. And
congratulations!
Thank you. But when the guy said, I just want to give a big hats off to you and your team, I couldn't help but laugh, because it's just him. Like, me and my team is just me and him. So I was like, I think, and he said the same thing. He was like, the way this was shot and edited and the writing, it's kind of crazy about that. And again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think it sounds like we achieved something that I'm very proud of and humbled by every time someone talks about it. It's a very proud moment for me, honestly.
Wow. Well, you should be proud. And you said something. My team and I was talking about when we started the planning of the Indie Film Awards, and independent. We are that team. You may be be the boom operator, the editor, the actor. And it was so funny, because when we saw the people were submitting, the submissions come in, so we had people that were the producer, the writer, the same person all the way down. But that is what indie filmmaking is all about, right?
I think we're gonna make it short and sweet and just put a film by.
Short and sweet. That's the beauty of it. I think it was Quentin Tarantino. He didn't go to film school, but when he tried to make his very first feature film, like, he said, okay, well, this is basically like my film school. Yeah, and I feel like you really do learn a lot just trying to make stuff on your own, because you do have to wear so many different hats and But and then you have this time frame of you want to get it done at this point. So you really learn a lot by just doing it. And when you're able to build relationships with people that you want to actually be on set with too, that's a whole nother thing, because you want to have people that we could have had maybe 10 people helping us out, but if 2 of them or 3 of them, if it kind of brings the morale down a little bit, like, I'd much rather have like a very small set of people that believe in it. So
people you trust and people you enjoy working with is so important. And to your point about the film school thing, I would say that we learned a lot. The camera techniques, the lighting techniques. We were bringing everything from sets that we had been on previously, like the World War II set that we met on. I've done some films. We both have agents, so we had been working as actors, and I know he shares this sentiment. When I was on sets, I'll always do this. I never went to a trailer or went back or whatever. Even when I wanted to, sometimes, I was like, I want to watch how they light the scene. Yeah. I want to watch how he sets the camera up. I want to talk to the audio guys, and they're probably like, "Would this guy just get out of here?" But I wanted to be around and soak it all up, and then it eventually comes back to help you, which I think it did tenfold. Now, there were still a few things we messed up on and had to fix later, but for the most part, we were like, "Oh, on that movie, how'd they do that? Oh, well, I was on a set the other day, and they lit it like this," and we're like, "Let's try it," and it worked.
Wow, exactly, man. And you know what? That's I'm an acting coach as well, and that's what I tell my actors. When you go on set, and especially if you're looking to do other things outside of acting, just like you guys, writing, directing, pay attention, and connect, and don't be a bugaboo, but be like Brandon and say, "I want to watch." Okay,
hand me the mic.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
That's how you learn. And if you guys hadn't told me that, I'm an actor, but I really didn't have that much of just on-hand experience of doing this, I would have been like, come on, I just want people to say something about you.
No, that was the I think that was one of the interesting moments too in the film, is because when we were talking about making like how it was going to be, there was one thing that I saw where I asked him, I was like, so what do you think about, because just the subject matter of the film, it's about a guy going through, these struggles with a relationship that just ended. So I told him, I was like, well, whenever you are going through something like that, whenever one of your best friends shows up, or just a good friend, like, you could be so down, but as soon as you see them, it really does like bring you up, and then you start joking about the things that you were just like really sad about.
Yeah.
So that was where I asked him, if we could throw in a moment like that, just because I thought it would help like kind of break up the film a little bit, where there would be that kind of moment. And he was totally down with it. So that was where I think getting to see him, because he at that moment where I'm in the scene, he's behind the camera at that point. So it was a role reversal there for a little bit while we were doing that. So it was like, I'm shooting, an hour, I'm shooting shots of him going around his apartment, walking around, and then the hour later I'm in front of the camera and he's behind the camera, and we're doing lights and the sound, like you were talking about, figuring out where's the best place to put the microphone. And like, yeah, it was just it was a very creative, collaborative process. And that's I think was something that him and we just have that bond now where we're like, anything you want to do, let's go.
And the trust, to speak up that you have an idea. There are so many times in horror stories, luckily I haven't faced many of these, but when you hear people say, oh, I had an idea and it was shot down, or people didn't care, we collaborate so well that when he threw that idea out there, it was perfect, because I had told him I felt like the film did need a reprieve. It needed a moment of respite in between all of the downtrodden moments of our lead. So when he said, maybe your friend comes over and he kind of tries to cheer you up, and I was like, that's actually a great idea, because that gives the audience a little bit of a breather before that final 4 to 5 minutes of the film, where it just, then you have the arc that needed to happen. I think it was a great addition to the film, and he wrote that little bit. His speech in the film that you saw, he wrote that little bit himself.
Okay, I like that scene with you guys talking. I really like that scene.
I felt like I was like, well, since he's giving me this opportunity, there were some things that I guess I had on my chest that I needed to get off. And so when I was just, and I still kind of have been in this zone of just writing stuff. So like, it was just something that worked. And then we filmed it. And then, we both kind of just watched it. And I remember one of the takes, I think it was the very last take we did. I only did like 2 or 3 takes of what I was saying in the film, but I think it was the last second take we did. He yelled cut, and I looked over at him, and he was like, I think that was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think so. Cause it was just a really great moment. Like I hold that, and we've talked about it many times, but like I hold this making of this film, like it's always going to be in my top memories of like, just experience and stuff. Cause it's really hard to explain just like what all we went through in those like 2
it was cathartic. This film in a way was therapy. Was therapy. And I get it. And for a lot of things, not just the relationship, but a lot of things. I was moving from Dallas at that time too, and he knew that. I was about to leave. I'd been in Dallas for 7-8 years, and the film is a lot about struggling with identity. And when you're with someone for so long, but not just someone, when you're in some place for so long, your whole identity gets wrapped up in being with them, being there. And when you put those things behind you, you suddenly think like, do I like doing this, or did they like doing this? Or do I like this, or did I do this because I was here and it was right next door and I've lived here forever, and that's why I go to this restaurant all the time. Like, you start to really struggle with your identity, and that's where I told him I didn't want it to just be a boo-hoo breakup film. It was more like a loss of identity, which is the weirdest thing you can go through, because when you really look in the mirror and think, dude, do I know myself at all anymore? It's a scary thought, and it's a really weird thought. And I think we all get there at some point. It's just a matter of when you want to face it and look at it.
And what did your acting teacher, what was his comment about the film? Because I thought it captured this. So he had sent the film to his acting teacher from Los Angeles, and the comment that his acting teacher said about it, I really think that's where it really hit me, where I was like, wow, I like what him and I did on screen. Like, I do think it's very important, especially right now with just, mental health in the way.
Oh my, yes.
What was the quote?
So I had when I was 19, I had my obligatory move to LA. I moved to LA and tried to make it. I loved my acting classes. The expenses were too much, but I loved my coach. And I sent him the trailer, and then I sent him my full movie. And he responded to it, and he said, I think this film explores a hidden side of masculinity that so desperately needs to be seen.
Yes.
I was like,
yeah, we were both like, whoa.
Yeah, which because
Yes.
I hadn't seen the man in like 3 or 4 years, so I really wasn't expecting him to even reply or know who I was. And he was like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out." He's like, "Let me watch it." And then like a week went by, and I was like, "He's not gonna watch it. He's not gonna." And he did, and he gave me a lot of feedback. But that little sentence, I sent it to Devin, and he was like, "You need to put that on the poster."
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what? I'm so glad y'all brought that up, because after you saying that, and I'm thinking about what I witnessed in the film, again, he's right. Kudos to you, because with the mental health and what we're witnessing right now, and it's actually hitting the Hollywood hard. I mean, really hard. And you know, we look to men as being strong and able to take all of this, and it's hard. You know, I would think, I'm not a man, but I would think it's hard for men to actually show that side of being vulnerable or being hurt or being, you know, I can see them, you know, just from my brother, who I think is like the toughest dude in the world,
Right.
who, when I see him break like that, it's like, what in the world?
It's hard to watch. Yeah,
it's hard to watch. And I applaud y'all. I mean, I can't wait till it's available where others, after you get through running through all these film festivals, but others are able to see this film. And I agree. I think this is something that everyone needs to see, because in the time that we're in, it definitely shows a side of that we as a society should pay more closer attention to, and not expect a man to be this hardcore person when they really have feelings just like everybody else. And when we know what happened just with Twitch, you know, when they don't express things like that happen, you know. So kudos, that I agree with your acting coach 100%. Yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it wasn't something that I even think we knew we tapped in on at the time. I didn't. It was something that I knew I was getting it off my chest, and I knew it was personal for me. But when he said that, I did think that, and I was like, this might be bigger than me, which is always a great feeling when you're like, this has now eclipsed what I had dreamed for it, and it's become something bigger, that someone who I really admire is saying that it's touching him on a deep level that could touch others. And that's ultimately the goal, is if this film could help someone or inspire someone, you know, then it's succeeded in some way.
Definitely needs to be a feature film.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
we've got ideas in the works. Absolutely.
Definitely needs to be a feature film. So let me ask you, when you, with the indie film, and I heard how you heard about the film, Indie Filmmaker Awards, which thank you for searching for us. So yay, I'm glad you found us. So what was your reaction when you found out that we made it? We're Bonnies, we're actually going. So what was your reaction?
So every single time it was the same. I sent him a screenshot and I said, we're going to X, Y, and Z. But I did.
Campaign.
I did. He knows. I got really excited about this one because your guys was number one. It was in person, which a lot of them are back to being in person, but some are still virtual. But also because you put a big emphasis on exposure and promotion, and not because I want, again, the pats on the back or the trophies. It's because you wanted to put us as filmmakers in front of an audience that was willing to reciprocate what we had made. And I think that is just, there are so many festivals that are like, pay us $80 and we'll put your film on the internet. And it's like, well, how do we know anybody's going to watch it?
I do that myself.
Yeah. And so I was like, you had put such an emphasis on networking, exposure. And so when I got accepted, I told him, I was like, clear your schedule. Yeah. Because we're going. So I was really, really, really stoked to get in. And I thank you again for having us. And I'm really glad we submitted.
I'm glad you guys submitted as well. Now let me ask this.
Ask it.
Anything.
We're here.
I'm listening to you, and I really admire for aspiring filmmakers. And this question's for both of you. And I've actually heard you've dropped a lot of nuggets. So for those of you that are just joining, when this is over, go back and replay, because they're not going to say what they said earlier again. I mean, they're going to say some good stuff on this question, but they're not going to say they've been dropping gems all since this interview started. But what advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers and people that in the indie world that just got ideas like you had? What would you tell them?
Give up. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Don't do it.
If you could be anything else, be that. Be that. No, it would be to, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it really is to just, if you believe in it, try it. I spent so long, even when I was acting, I spent so long thinking I wasn't good enough, thinking what other people would think of me if I did get a part, and what people would think of me on being in stage, because I come from a small Texas town where football is priority numero.
Dogs.
Yeah. So, so being the stage guy was always a bit of a, am I going to, you just have to throw all that to the wind. And then when filmmaking came along, I told him, the film was so personal. I was like, will anyone reciprocate with this? And he was like, it really doesn't matter if anyone does. It really doesn't. At the end of the day, it's like, if it's your truth and you want to put it out there, put it out there. And odds are someone is going through something similar or has gone through something similar, and they're going to reciprocate. So, my biggest advice would be to surround yourself with people that you trust, no matter what you want to be. It doesn't matter what you want to be. Surround yourself with people you trust. Never pervert your dream. Don't make it about the awards. Don't make it about money. Don't make it about the house and the car.
Yes.
Make it about if it makes you happy, which I know a lot of us, I wish it would make more money that way, but it's not always like that. But you will be more fulfilled if you do those two things. And then again, just going for it. Just whatever that idea is. If it sounds crazy, if it sounds dumb, just try it. And you learn so much more from failures. That's what I told him. Every festival we didn't get into, I learned something, because I asked every single one of them, I don't need a full breakdown, but what's the reason why? And some of them told me, it was too long. Okay, that's a note. That's a note. And every failure is a learning stone. So like every single time you fail, you learn something. I've said before, I learn more from my failures than I ever learn in my victories. I'm happier with my victories, but you don't learn as much. So I think those would be my key 3 things.
Right.
Yeah, I obviously echo a lot of what he said. The only things I would really add to it is just, number one is mainly you got to stick with it. Like you can't think, you're just going to be this like main, one hit wonder. You're just going to blow up like in 1 day, 2 days. Like it's definitely a long journey, this whole process. And like I said, I view myself from the actor's mindset, I guess. And so if there is people out there that are, and I mean, if they're filmmakers, if they want to be actors, whatever it really is, I do think, like, since him and we are both working actors, we audition all the time. But like I said, in 2020, where my mindset changed, where it was just like, well, that's great to get auditions for a lot of these like really big potential projects that could change your career, quickly. But while you're doing that, make stuff on your own. Like write a short film, get your friends together. Just even if it's just with your phone, like, I mean, you can do a lot with just just create something, even if it's you're just 2 characters in a room talking. You learn so much, and once you start watching your performances, that you're doing your own stuff, you learn a lot. But while you have other people that are a part of your projects too, like you really, I feel like I've definitely learned a lot, just how people come off on screen just from working with other people that I get in like my projects, or like working with him. You just get inspired because you see people that are in the same boat as you, and you all just want to make the best thing possible. And I think it's just super inspiring to be around. So like he said, the last big thing is just try to find those people that you trust. And I mean, even if it's friends that maybe aren't interested in it, I mean, maybe get them a good meal, take them out for a good meal.
Food works.
You hold the camera while I do this, and who knows, maybe they'll get into it too. Like, so it's just that's the biggest thing, is just try to just make your own stuff, because you really do learn a lot. And it's like what we have with this film, like we have such a strong bond with this. Like when you showed the trailer, I was just seeing like that. I'm like, oh.
When I hear the music, dude, when I hear the music, I know. And what you said, I just want to touch on that, is really important, because consistency, that's huge in this industry, but it's huge in anything. They say hard work keeps talent when talent doesn't work hard. Right. So if you keep at it, you can become whatever you want to be. I truly believe that. It is harder than it sounds. It's not going to be overnight, probably. I mean, to a lot of people, it may seem like we're overnight, but we've been doing this for years and years and years. So it just, once it finally hits, then people are like, oh, you decided to do this. And it's like, I've been doing this. We've been doing this. It takes some time. So consistency is super, super important. Sticking with it.
And drink a lot of water. A
gallon a lot of water.
Stay hydrated.
A gallon a day. Drink a lot of water.
Stay hydrated.
And consistency is key. Because oftentimes, I mean, I've done film. I actually did during the pandemic a whole web series, a 2-season web series.
Okay.
With phones.
Yeah.
And,
that's cool.
And we actually, everybody filmed their own scenes. I had people from Egypt. I had actors from Egypt. I had actors from London, Egypt, New York, all over the world that actually auditioned, and we created a whole web series. So I agree with you that use your phones, use whatever, just get out and do it. It was because of the pandemic, and I'm an artist, and I was going nuts. Literally going nuts. Like, what? Yeah. I don't know what to do. And depression did start to set in.
Yeah.
And somebody told me, quit crying and singing about you're depressed and go write. And that's exactly what we did. So great. I mean, great conversation right here. This is great conversation. So I hope somebody is grabbing these gems and got you a gem basket and just throwing them in there, because this is great conversation. Now, another question: who are your filmmaking influencers?
This is
what time is it? How much time we got left?
We don't have enough.
We got a whole 13 minutes.
So right off the bat, in terms of just creating insane scenarios, this is someone I look to when I'm thinking about characters and what dilemmas to put them in. Tarantino. Because he finds those scenarios to put people in that are just out of this world, that you're like, what are they talking about? How did they start talking about this? So it's so hard. I could list off all of the big ones like Scorsese and Spielberg, and because I'm inspired by so many, but I think in this day and age, a lot of it are the indie people. The indie guys are inspiring me a lot right now, because
indie is killing the game. I'm sorry.
They are. And the bar is so high with the indie films. We were talking just earlier, A24, everything they put out is just killer. And it's always from a director that we don't know that well usually. And so it's just, I would say this film, a lot of visually, we were inspired by, I'm forgetting his name now. Neon Demon.
Oh, Nicholas Winding
Refn. I like his films a lot. I Drive. We wanted the color. I love his color palettes. He comes up with a lot of crazy reds and greens and blues. And red was a big theme in this film, as you saw. So I think I took a lot of inspiration from that. Gosh, why'd you have to ask this question?
Yeah.
This is such a hard one. I'm gonna let him go. I'm inspired by so many people. You go.
Yeah. To be honest, a lot of what he said, the Christopher Nolan's, all of that. But there's a guy, Derek Cianfrance. He did Blue Valentine and The Place Beyond the Pines. Those are two of my all-time favorite movies. And they're very, they're not big budget films. They're smaller films. Now, of course, they have great actors in them, but they are smaller. They're smaller budgeted films. So he's a big influence of mine. But one thing that, since 2020, my respect has grown tremendously for the ones that are actors / directors. Yeah. So those actors that are directing themselves in movies, and they probably wrote it, they probably acted in it. My respect level has grown tremendously. And Ben Affleck, some people feel a certain way about him, but there's a movie he did called The Town. Great. He directed it, he wrote it, and he was one of the leads in it. Now that's a way bigger scale of a movie, so I can only imagine what he was probably running around on set, but he had so many different hats. So that's just something my respect has grown a lot. Jason Momoa, he did a movie called Road to Paloma, where he directed it and he starred in it, and that was before Aquaman. That was before he got really famous, and he did that because he was tired of playing the same type of roles. And that's something that I really that really clicked for me too, is like he got tired of auditioning and waiting to play a role like that. He was like, let me just write it and do it myself.
There you go.
I love that. So.
Well, and those deeply personal stories that aren't so huge and world spanning, like Richard Linklater type movies. I love those kinds of movies that are very deeply personal and focus in on more character driven stories than a big, I mean, I'm like anybody else. I saw Avatar, you know, I'm for the big blockbusters. I'm for the big blockbusters, but I also, I find I more enjoy the films kind of like this one, which are deeply rooted in a character driven setting where the stakes aren't world ending, but they feel that way to the person.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. And you know, I like something else that you guys said that you touched on, which is the indie industry. I mean, I am loving, and I think with TikTok and all of these other ways that you can actually put out little, you know, short films and things like that, I'm seeing a lot of people that, man, I'm like, it's a lot of people out here that got skills, and it's on an independent level, but for some of them, they're really blowing up. I mean, with you know, with the TikTok and making money off of the things that they're doing. So I agree. The indie world is doing some amazing things out here.
Yeah, we're living in a very interesting time when it comes to film, TV, and like just being able to produce your own stuff. Like, it's one of those things you don't realize it until like you really just kind of sit back and you think like we couldn't have done this 20 years ago.
Nope.
You know, so like it's just we're lucky to be in this right now, so we might as well take advantage of it.
Exactly. Take advantage of it before they try to figure out some way to tax it or take it away or do something different. Take advantage of it now. Put all your content out ASAP. Okay.
Right.
So tell us what upcoming projects, what can we expect?
Well, I'll say first off, I have written a feature script. It's a different story, but I'm kind of shopping it around right now because I had this amazing I was just in a flow state. I was writing this script and I really, really hope it gets made. I think we'll do it. We're in talks with some people about financing it. But for my boy here, we are actually working right now on his first feature film, which is a continuation of a short that he made, which is an award-winning short too.
Wow, so, congratulations.
If he wants to talk about that, he's more than welcome.
Yeah, so that's the short I made in 2020. So just long story short, horror is a big genre that I love, but I like the ones where there's a real meaning or a symbol behind it. My sister has special needs. She has Down syndrome. She's the biggest inspiration in my life. So I've always wanted to get her involved in something. So 2020 wrote a horror film called A Monster Within, where it's basically just about a brother, how far he would go to protect his sister. His sister just happens to have special needs. So yeah, we wrote that. I did that with a friend of mine. It was another like 2 or 3 man crew, but surprised, I was blown away by how well it was received and did.
It's a great film.
I had this idea for a long time brewing in my head, and then after all of the experience that I had after 2020 with that, making another one, helping Brendan make this, I booked a couple other roles as an actor in projects. I was just like, you know what, I don't want to wait around, talk about it anymore. Let's just try to make it. So I wrote a feature-length script of that short film. The story's a little bit different, but it's still, the heart is a brother's love for his sister. Like, that's still the heart of it. But it is a horror film. There's drama. There's a little love story in it now. And that's called Monsters Within. And we have an hour of it shot right now. It's really amazing. It looks great. But I think the first weekend of February, we should have it all completed. So that's
and see, I've done the roles reversed. I've done everything you can do for that film. I've been on the craft table. I've been on the microphone. I've been a camera operator. Because as soon as he called me, it's not even a question anymore. It's not, can you work on my film? It's where do you need me to be?
Yeah, I was like, hey man, I got this idea, and then I was like, whoa, how did you get here? He's like, oh, man. He's like, oh man, and I was like, okay, let's go. But yeah, that's something that's been a whole nother learning experience. But that's a story for a different time. But I did just have a small role in a horror film that's coming out called Blood Dried Hands, and that was a Texas film. And that should be coming out late 2023 probably. So I'm excited about that one as well.
We've got a lot of shorts in mind too while we're working on our features. We've got tons of ideas we want to make, and I'm pretty sure any ones we make we're going to be submitting to.
Oh yeah, we'll be back.
So you'll be seeing more of us most likely.
Okay, well, that was going to be one of my questions, so I'm glad you answered it. Good answer. Good answer.
You know you don't have to ask.
We family now. We want to see y'all.
You're not getting rid of us now.
Last question. Well, it's not. I got one more question, but this question: where do you guys think the film industry in Texas is going in the next 3 years? I mean, where do you see us going? What are you seeing in Texas?
In the next 3 years, I mean, honestly, in the past 2 to 3 years, especially during COVID, I've seen so many people I know personally move back here from places like Nashville, from places like Los Angeles, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Las Colinas. These are good places to shoot, and they are, as of right now, you know, I'm not an expert on the taxes and everything, but I know that in terms of being friendly with filmmakers, they're very filmmaker friendly, and they are, from what I hear from the people that have shot there. And I think it's only going to get better. I think people are really desiring right now that freedom to come and collaborate and not break your bank like shooting in California. Apparently shooting in Atlanta has gone up and up and up and up, which Atlanta is beautiful, and it's got so many great iconic locations where people shoot. But if you can't afford to shoot there, then what are you going to do? So I think that in 3 years, hopefully, you know, we're not having to worry about breaking the bank to go shoot big movies in LA or anything, and they're coming to us, which I think is happening. I think it's already happening. So many, you know, Taylor Sheridan shows like Yellowstone and all of his spinoffs are shooting here, and or at least half of the show shoots here for some time. So I mean, it's just, I think the sky's the limit right now, as long as policymakers don't mess it up. Don't disrespect the film industry. If anyone was to come across this, show us some love. We're not asking for too much, but just don't tread on us. Just let us.
I will say that is something that Oklahoma has done very well. Like Oklahoma is very much booming right now in the film industry. So I think if Texas just kind of, it's almost like a hand-in-hand relationship. I mean, so close to each other. There's so many possibilities for locations in Oklahoma and in Texas, because that was something. So in my feature film, like we shot a big bulk of it in Oklahoma, but we're also shooting a bulk of it in Texas, and so we're kind of combining the two. So I feel like if there is a way that filmmakers can kind of utilize that, because it's cheap to film in Oklahoma for the most part now, you know, it's cheap to film in Texas. So if we can keep that going, then I see a big boom coming for this industry, because like he said, I know a lot of people that are moving back to Oklahoma, back to Texas, because there is more opportunity. Like you can audition just as an actor, you can get auditions 3-4 times a week on like really good weeks, where these other places, you know, it might be once a week or whatever. So
and that's a focus, and that's a focus for me going forward. You know, I look at these festivals that I get into, and I look at the slates of films and the filmmakers and actors, because I want to cast locally. The next film I do, I want to cast people from Texas, from Oklahoma, I want to cast people that I know are struggling or maybe not have the same access to roles that someone in LA does right now, because So I look at these things and I look and I think, let me watch their film, because I'm in the same boat. So if we can collaborate together, that is only good things for both of us.
Right. Wow. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So look, we got 1 minute, like some seconds. Can you believe that?
Wow.
We do.
Time flies when you have a fun.
Amazing conversation. So I do have my last question.
Yeah.
So you guys are planning to be at the show in March, right?
Oh yeah.
March is my birthday month, so it's celebration time.
Well, you know, I love fashion. Just in case y'all haven't been on my page, go browse, be nosy. I love fashion. What are you guys wearing? Have y'all started thinking about what you're gonna, you know?
So I'm gonna go cheap and just get a Christian Dior suit,
right?
And,
little Gucci, maybe.
Yeah, real cheap, right?
I have been really inspired by Austin Butler's looks on the red carpet lately. Yeah. So maybe browse a few of his looks from the award seasons, and you'll probably see something similar that I might have up my sleeve.
Ryan Gosling's a big style icon of mine too. So
Yeah.
I might browse that. But yeah, definitely, we're gonna look nice.
You don't have to worry about that.
Don't
We
you
won't.
worry.
We won't look
We'll
as good
show
as you,
up.
of course.
Oh, there
but
they
we'll
are.
try.
There they are.
Stop it. No, don't stop it. Don't
Keep
stop
going. Keep it going.
Keep it coming. No, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
My God. This conversation went fast.
Oh
It
yeah,
really did. It really did.
it did.
Seriously. But I have enjoyed you two. Again, I thank you both so much. I thank you for entering. I can't wait to meet you both in person on the red carpet. We got so much planned for y'all. And like I told you earlier before we went live, that just stay tuned. We got so much to do. I'm super excited about everything that we're planning for the finalists. So we want, you know what? It's going to be people going to be looking like, I should have entered my project. Yes, you. And guess what? You all have made history with Texas Indie Filmmaker Awards because you are the first to enter. So you're going to be in the history books of this award show. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I'm excited. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We enjoy y'all. Everybody that has been watching, thank you guys so much. For those of you that are about to hit the replay, still comment.
Hit that replay button.
Hit that replay button. And thank y'all so much for joining. This has been an amazing interview, and I wish both of you all the best. We will be connecting because we got a lot of things planned. I want to connect with you guys. So definitely,
yes. Thank you for being such a great host. Really, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, guys, and thank all of you. Hi, Evelyn and Michael, and thank y'all so much for joining. So good night, everybody. And tomorrow we will be back. Tomorrow at 7:30, and I will be interviewing Mr. Benet Embry himself, another one of the finalists. So you know this competition is getting gooder and gooder.
Oh
yeah, there we go.
It's warm in here.
It's getting warm. All right. So thank y'all so much. Have a good night, and thank everybody else for joining in tonight. Thank you. Please share this. We want them to get as much exposure as possible. Share this feed. Love you guys. Good night.
Thank you so much. God